Welcome to the Ferris Love Podcast, Single, Not Stalled, Pursuing Sanctity in Your Singleness. This podcast is for Catholic women who find themselves living the single life, whether it by choice, vocation, or circumstance. Here we believe that this time is not just a waiting period, but a season rich with purpose, growth, and grace. Join your hosts, Monica and Katie, two sisters navigating the single life from different perspectives, as we dive into conversations about faith, friendship, professional growth, and finding joy in the everyday. Let's embrace this extraordinary journey together. Hello, Katie.
Hey, happy St. Patrick's Day. We're recording on St. Patrick's Day, but it'll be out after.
Yeah.
And we're not Irish, but
not at all.
any reason for corned beef. And I do like Irish soda bread if it's not overcooked.
So good. One of our brothers married a very Irish girl, like flaming red hair Irish girl.
Yeah.
And she makes like the best, like
Everything.
Irish. I was there recently and she just made this like cabbage dish that was so good, all these things. But I was joking, and her kids look so Irish, and they get them these cute like little like Irish like berets or hats, whatever they're called. And I don't know their exact term, but I was joking about how Irish they were. And our brother was like, they're more German than Irish percentage wise because of how German we are. Like the breakdown ratio. I was like, oh, that's so funny. Yeah, there's not a drop of Irish blood in us.
Well, I thought it was funny too, because this morning she was the first to text in the family group text, like the happy St. Patrick's Day, like GIF and like all this kind of stuff. And I was like, I wasn't hardly even awake yet. And she's already texting like, happy St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, they're partying over
That's
there.
really funny. Okay, also, this is a total sidebar to this whole thing, but so we still have one grandma left, and she's 96 years old, but her health is kind of fading now. And I was talking about doing like a 23andMe or like an Ancestry.com thing, because I'm so curious what we are, because no one in our immediate family has done this yet, to see what percentage of everything we are. And I was telling a friend about this who's really into Ancestry, and she was like, no. She's like, Katie, you should do it, and you should have your grandma do it, because then you'll be able to see so clearly too what comes from your mom and what comes from your dad.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to get a kit, and I'm going to send it to Grandma B and ask her to do it. You just like spit into a vial or something like that and send it off. Or maybe I'll bring it the next time I see her and have her do it and then send it off, because I'm so curious, because she has always said she's 100% German and that she married someone 100% German, which I don't think she probably is. However, the last names are very German, so who knows? I'm very curious.
That would be really very interesting. Okay, you'll have to keep us posted.
Yeah, exactly. I will.
I had a kit. I actually did have a kit. This is so random. Well, it actually kind of segues into what we're going to talk about. But it was a gift from an ex-boyfriend.
Oh, seriously?
How weird.
Did he have it done? Was he Mormon?
Okay, no, not
the Mormons are really big into that. Do you know that?
Yes, because you can like posthumously baptize.
Yeah, people in so they actually the Mormons are the ones that run Ancestry.com.
Oh my gosh.
It's their thing.
Wow.
I think that's so fascinating. Anyway.
He was not Mormon. But I think he had done it, and I think we had been talking about it, and I think he wanted to know what my family or what I was about, and so he gave it to me. And then half the people in my life were like freaking out about like government conspiracy having my information. The other half was like, that's really cool. And then we broke up and I lost it, and I was like,
well, I'm gonna do it. And you know what? Grandma's like 96, so government conspiracy, if they want to find out about her at 96, like go ahead. Whatever.
Yeah.
She's probably not gonna see 97, so
That's true. What is your joy for the week?
I don't know if I have a joy for this week. That sounds horrible. No, actually, okay. As side note,
have to find one.
I know. Okay, I will. Actually, I do have a joy. Ready? So I must have done this on Wednesday. I pulled horribly a muscle.
Yeah,
I think my left trap, which, if you don't know, goes up your neck, across your back, and all the way down your back. I must have done it Wednesday, although I felt fine all day Wednesday. I went to sleep Wednesday night, stretched in the middle of the night Wednesday night at like 4 a.m, and was in such horrible pain. I had to roll out of bed because I couldn't even sit up enough. I couldn't sit up.
It's so bad.
Anyway, so I have spent pretty much the last 5 days propped up on pillows on the couch with a heating pad to like recover. And it's bad. It's really bad. And for those of you keeping track at home, on the 29th of March, I'm doing the High Rocks. Fingers crossed at this point. So I have spent 5 days sitting on the couch, not doing much of anything. Although I have watched some interesting documentaries. I won't go into it. I'm obsessed with documentaries. But I will say, I think my joy of the week is because for the last year, I've been trying to slow down. I think I actually might recover from this injury much faster than I would have previously because I really was like, this is so bad. I have to do
Mm.
nothing. Like, I have to rest. And I think if I hadn't been trying to live this way for a while and tried to like really pay attention to what my body's saying and all that, I think I would have been back in the gym probably 2 days ago already. Um, Trying to get at it, thinking of the high rocks that's coming up and being like, I haven't trained enough, like doing all of this kind of stuff. And um, instead, I just have been like, you know what? The high rocks is going to be what the high rocks is going to be, but I have to give myself the best fighting chance to be able to complete it,
Mm.
which means pretty much not working out until the high rocks. Um, so I think that is my joy that I feel like there's been growth.
Yeah, well, you're seeing firsthand kind of the fruits of your labor where you're like,
Yeah,
wait a
exactly.
minute, like I'm
Mhm.
handling this differently or better or so forth. And so
Yeah.
um that's awesome. That's
It's
really
still really
great.
frustrating, but my chat we talked about this last week, but, you know, I have, like, my Chat GPT running as, like, a
Yeah.
personal trainer and all that, and I do daily check-ins, and so the morning I checked in after this, it literally it kn my chat knows me so well. I didn't even say I was freaking out, but it said, "You're probably freaking out about the high rocks and its proximity to this injury." I was, like,
Oh wait,
called out.
chat.
And it was
That's
like, "Do not worry, this is fine. Many athletes begin tapering around this time anyway. So even if this is a longer injury, but I think you'll be better in 2 or 3 days." And then, like, day 3, I was not better, but it was a little better, and it was like, "We're seeing marked, slow progress. This is fine. If you're still worried about the high rocks, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "This is hilarious."
how
So,
encouraging, chat. How encouraging.
I know. He's been trying real hard.
That's so funny.
Good.
Gosh, what's my joy for the week? I had a lot of quality friend time this past
Yeah,
week, which has been really great. And my best friend just had her second baby, healthy. They're both healthy.
love
So
it.
it's really exciting. Yeah. So
And it was
it's
born on her sister's birthday too. Did you know that?
her sister's birthday.
One of our sisters was born that day
Oh, I
too.
didn't know that.
I saw it pop up on
That's
my
funny. Oh,
Snapchat.
hilarious. No, I guess I didn't piece that together.
Yeah,
That's really funny. So yeah, everyone's healthy and that's good. So that is my joy for the week.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, this week we are okay,
We're
brace
pivoting
yourself.
content a little bit. Here we go.
We are moving into the topic we don't normally ever talk about, and hot take. We're gonna have a hot take that a lot of people are not gonna like.
Yeah.
But it was
Love it.
Monica's idea, and Monica in this idea is calling herself out.
I am calling
So
myself out in this idea.
here we go. Brace yourselves.
You want me to say it?
Yeah, your idea. You
We're gonna talk about dating, which we don't typically tiptoe around that, but this is in the avenue of self-growth, not in finding your person.
yeah.
So I think if you get to your very late 20s and into your 30s and you are still situationally single and you want to be in a committed relationship marriage and you're like, I'm never finding the right guy, this isn't working, all of these things. The hot take, in my personal opinion, is that you are part of the problem. And I think
Out.
we don't ouch, we don't wanna hear that. We wanna say that it's God hasn't blessed you with the time yet, or men are trash, or it's difficult in today's day and age, or, there's just
You know,
guys are terrible, and we're not looking at ourselves in this
mhm.
process.
Yeah. You know, this is this is funny. This is making me think of when I was young, I was probably in high school. I'm trying to think. When did Rich get married? Anyway, I was in middle school or high school when a cousin of ours was getting married. And through
Mm,
most of my life, he had dated one girl, and we all thought they were getting married. And then he ended up marrying someone else who was also in his friend group from the time he was. And they're great. We love them. But I remember saying to our mom, I don't understand. Like, he was in love with I don't even remember her name now, it's not funny. He was in love with, you know, Sally from
yeah.
before, and now he's marrying someone else. And our mom saying, like, "You know, Kate, a lot of marriage has to do with timing."
Mm,
And at the time, I was like, that sounds horrible. Soulmates, blah blah blah. Which I don't believe in soulmates, but now, like to this end, I think it's true. And sometimes the timing is not necessarily like, okay, we both hit 25 and like the time is right. But I think some of the timing is also like whether you've gotten yourself right or not,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Like, are you actually emotionally and mentally prepared
Right.
for marriage?
Right.
And if you're not, yeah, then you're going to end up dating a lot of duds.
Yeah. And I think that we can say, like, I'm ready because, like, I have a good relationship with God and I read my Bible every day and I have good friends and I'm working out or whatever the things are you're telling yourself. But you keep choosing X type of guy, right? On one hand, we could look at it and be like, gosh, I only attract jerks. Or we could look at that and say, but you're choosing jerks.
Right.
Something about that. And I, yes, as Katie said in the beginning, I'm calling myself out on it. I'm 31, about to be 32, and doing a lot of work with myself and with my own therapist to look at my dating patterns
Mm-hmm.
because there's a similar thread in all of them. Although if we lined them up, everyone would tell you that the men I've dated look different, act different, seem
Yeah.
different,
So
very
different.
different. Like I don't have, but there's an undercurrent in each of them that
Yeah.
I'm choosing or that
Right.
is pulling me in or that feels familiar and yet always lands me in the same situation and same place. And
Mm-hmm.
the work on that is me. And now, yes, part of it's going to be timing, part of it's whatever, if you want to call it God's timing or whatever, and this person in your place, but you have to be ready to receive. And if you
Right.
can't receive a good man because of your own wounds or
Mm-hmm.
because of your own patterns, then you are part of the problem. And
Right.
I only say problem because I don't think being single is a problem. I think if you
Right.
really want marriage and you feel as though everything's out of your control, I would call that a problem.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you are one of those people who's wanted to be married for the last 5 years, 8 years, whatever, and it's not happening, or even 3 years, honestly, and it's not happening, like then there's something happening here. There's something bigger here than
Mhm.
just you haven't gone out on enough dates. I've got a lot of friends who date a lot, like date a lot. And I'm always like, wow, you're going on a lot of dates. And yet not engaged, not married, nothing long term. And
Mhm.
so it's not necessarily like increasing the volume of dates you go out on,
Mhm.
right? But I think it's true. I think a lot of it is trying to take a step back and figure out like what are your patterns or what are the things that are holding you back, and maybe you
Mhm.
are attracting men who are immature, or maybe you
Mhm.
are attracting men who don't treat you right, or maybe you are attracting people who are more superficial than you want, or
Yeah.
whatever it is, right? Like
So
there's so many things.
yeah, I have a story about this. I was actually at a girls event. I didn't know all of the girls all that well, but I had one of my friends was kind of hosting it or whatever. And of course, as everything does in this like singleness, it always moves into dating.
Of
And one
course.
of the girls was talking about this like date she had just gone on and how she demanded it be 50-50. I looked at her and I said, like she wanted to pay 50% of the bill. I looked at her and I said, why?
Yeah.
And just why? Like what's and she was just like, well, because like I don't want there to be like pressure and expectation and just want everything to be chill. And I said, okay, do you want a 50-50 life with a man one day?
Right.
And she was like, well, like,
Are you gonna
no. And I
work
was
and
like,
he's gonna work and you're gonna split all
well,
the bills 50-50 and you're
and she
gonna
was just like, no, but that's like later. And like, we can talk
Mm-mm.
about that like later. And I said, but you need to be careful about the precedent you're setting now because the problem is not that you're choosing 50-50 men. The problem is the men you want wouldn't go 50-50 and you know that.
Right.
And you, out of your own fear of him calling you needy or mean words or rejecting you, you are trying to make it easier on him. And now you're choosing soft men and you don't understand why
Mhm.
it always ends in disaster. And I was like, but you're contributing to that to some
Mhm.
degree
Right.
instead of just being honest about what you want and that honesty about who you are and what you want will lead to rejection and that's
Sure.
okay. Right? Because
Right. And in
the
fact,
men who
good,
come.
because then
Right.
you're gonna find the right one. But if you
Right.
are yeah. And honestly, any way you do it, it's going to face rejection. Whether you continue to date the rejects,
Yeah.
who you should not be dating,
Which,
which, and honestly, it doesn't necessarily mean they're like horrible people. It's funny.
no,
There's this friend of mine who's
it's
getting
not
married
even
this weekend who
yeah.
she's getting married to this guy who like everyone else dated.
Oh
And
gosh.
he was not the guy for anybody else, right? Like
Uh-huh.
everyone else went out on like 1 or 2 dates with this guy and whatnot. And then when they found out she was dating him, they were like, "Oh,
Womp womp.
really?" And literally, I don't even think they've been dating a year, and now they're getting married this weekend. And it went really fast
Yeah.
because he was the right guy for her. He was not the
Right.
right guy for all these other people, but they were
Right.
also ready for that, right? And I
Yeah.
think that to me is also so interesting that like, yeah, you have to know what you're looking for. You have to,
Which,
and then you have to show up that way.
and the reason I asked her was because maybe you do want a 50-50 life.
Right.
The challenge there is, am I showing up in an authentic way that is true to myself, my wants, my needs, my desires? Or am I showing up inauthentic out of fear or out of some underlying thing showing up? And the truth is
Sure.
she didn't want a 50-50 life. And so then I was like, so you don't want him to feel pressured or feel like he has to pay for anything. And he doesn't have to plan all that. You're going to do half of it and he's going to do half of it. And I was like, cool, but you don't want that kind of marriage, but you'll take that kind of dating relationship. Like, do you see how confusing this is? That one day when you
Right.
start to tell him he has to like pick up the bill for everything, he's going to be like, what do you mean? We've never
Yeah.
done it that way. And
Yeah.
I looked,
Exactly.
she pushed back, and then I said, okay, cool. So 50%, what 50% of the childbearing will he do?
Right.
What 50% of labor will he do? Like, and I think some women feel like our society's made them feel almost like guilty for a man taking care of them.
Mm.
And that it's like, but he's putting up so much up front. And I'm like, yes, every male species does this. Okay. Birds have ritual dances to be like, look
Yeah.
at me. I'm
The men
like,
dance. Have
I
you
am
seen that
good to
guy on
mate with.
Instagram who does bird
Who does those
dances
in
every day
public?
to
I think
find to
he's
attract his?
hilarious.
He's hilarious.
That man's hilarious. So I'm like, this is the human. He's showing you his ability to provide. He's signaling resources, just like the
Right.
beautiful male bird. Okay.
Right.
So, and regardless, I think underneath that was a wound that she wasn't willing to face yet,
Mm.
out of fear of rejection, out of fear of being alone, and so forth. And what's funny is she actually moved home and she is married now.
Mm. Interesting.
And she like moved back to where she's from. But one of my friends went to the wedding and they were like, Monica, that conversation we had that day like snapped her out of it and was like,
Mm.
wait a minute, like, because sometimes I think we don't see ourselves, and which is why I think it's great to be in therapy or to have a really
Mhm.
trusted friend to check you sometimes,
Yeah.
because I think so many of our quote unquote wants or needs could actually be unhealthy patterns and habits, fear responses, or stuff coming up from our childhood
Sure.
that we are not totally aware of. We're not that self-aware.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like we're not seeing the patterns or we're not really understanding, yeah, what's happening. And I think, I was thinking like for those who are more vocationally single, I think this can even happen in like friendships,
Mm.
right? Like I know for a really long time, like a lot of my, and I realized this later in life through therapy, like a lot of my deep friendships were people who were really needy
Oh,
because then
yes.
I was needed.
Felt good.
Right. And it felt good. It felt good to be needed. It felt good to like be able to supply things to them, not like physical things, but like emotional space or time or whatever. And like I still have a few friends like that, but like I've moved away from just attracting those kinds of friends because like obviously that's not good or healthy if your relationship is totally one-sided, right?
Uh-huh.
And I think the same for those who are, trying to build relationships towards marriage, right? You have
Uh-huh.
to look at yourself and see like,
Uh-huh.
okay, what am I doing? Or what are these
Uh-huh.
patterns or what are these wounding messages I'm trying to correct that I had from
Uh-huh.
childhood or maybe from previous dating experiences? Like
Yes.
this friend of yours, maybe she started going 50-50 because she had some really bad dates of guys who were like, what do you mean you're not going to pay?
Oh, totally.
And then she felt guilty and she was like, oh my gosh, like maybe I'm supposed to pay in this day and age. Like it's
Yeah.
2024 or whatever. And like I should be paying. And suddenly she started rectifying, correcting her. This reminded me when I was in college, um, the newspaper crew, we all hung out together because we did everything together as journalists, etc. And there was one guy in the group who would often go everywhere with us too. And we were coming back from dinner at one point, and he was at the front of the door, and he just walked through the door and didn't hold it open for any of us. And we we, like, called him out on it, and we're like, "Dude, like, what the heck?" And he was like, "Hey, like, I'm not gonna get in your way, like, women's power or whatever." And we were all like, "Dude, open the door." And, like, he had early like, we'd known him for 3 years. He had
Yeah, but I'm sure
in
some girl
previous
yelled at
years.
him.
And he said, and so we were like, like, "You can hold the door open for us." And he was like, "Okay." He was like, "The last 2 girls I dated yelled at me for it." So he stopped holding doors for girls.
So what I would say to him is like, but if you want a woman that you can treat that way, break up with those girls who yelled at you because it's just, you're
Right.
not compatible, right?
Yeah.
You have to have a serious conversation and say, listen, the relationship I want is one in which I am like allowed to be like chivalrous and like attuned and caring. I really want
Mhm.
that. Um, and so like, and then she can respond
Right.
in there is a deeper dialogue
Right.
for people to be able to understand needs, right? Because her response could also be coming from a wound. And now you have two people who are bringing in other garbage into this space. And it's not that we cut people off, it's that we have honest conversations. I have a lot of friends, myself included, have, you know, been quick to cut people off because
Mhm.
of a perceived red flag and
Yeah.
not have a conversation with a guy. And then everyone's like, what are you doing? What do you mean?
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. Right. Um, Instead of giving people a chance and having conversations with them about what you're noticing, what you need, and so forth, that is far
Yeah.
scarier
Yeah,
than to
and
just cut
I
them off.
exactly, and I think that is also something that's just missing in dating today. I think it's missing in friendship today overall, is
Mhm.
just having these deep conversations about things,
Yeah.
and we're quick to just cut people out, right? We're quick to be
Mhm.
like, "No," and I think this is just a product of our time. We're quick to unfollow someone on Instagram who we don't agree with their opinion. We're quick to, whatever, all these things and make like a snap judgment. And I think we're seeing relationships move in this direction too. We're quick
Yeah.
to be like, "This is done and over with," before we have a conversation to find out what's really happening here and to see if what we've perceived or what they've done is actually who they are, or if it is, like last episode, a mask they're putting on or a perceived way they think they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And having those conversations is really important.
Mhm. I find, and this might be like really, I don't know, our followers may resonate with them, but I feel like I know a lot of Catholic women and maybe even some men who are like, kind of navigating dating, and like, but they're not Catholic.
Mm,
And
mhm.
and um right, and with all of my friends, I push back a little bit. I mean, I challenge my friends on everything just because I think when you ask why or what a few times, you get to the root of what's really going
Sure.
on. Where I'm like, okay, but what does it mean to be Catholic? I've dated some Catholic men who are trash.
Yeah.
Not to put anybody on blast, but like, my God, they were far from the Lord. Let's just be clear about that.
Yeah.
Okay. And it was I found it was like harder to date some Catholics and fight them on Catholicism than non-Catholics who were like, "Well, I don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
That's your
Yeah.
rule. Okay. Catholics. Oh gosh." So all that to say, kind of challenging yourself to think about what are these kind of must-have or deal breakers that I have,
Mhm.
what's underneath them and what's kind of underlying there,
Yeah.
um, and challenge yourself to go like a little deeper about that.
Mhm. We have several cousins, in fact, who married men who are not Catholic. Um, and are so good and so supportive of the family, the kids being raised Catholic. Like,
Mhm.
the one cousin's husband just came into the church, but like they had never even talked about the possibility of him coming into the church. He made
Right.
the decision on his own, came home and told her, and she was like, "What?" And he was like, "I don't know. No one ever even asked me. Like, I
Yeah.
never even thought it was a possibility until I started like, maybe I should look into this."
Yeah.
And so it's not, and I always tell people too, like, I mean, heck, you and I wouldn't be here if that was our dad's criteria, because our mom was not Catholic when they
That's right.
dated, and she was not Catholic, nor had she said she would become Catholic when they got engaged.
Nor did he ask her to. I think
No.
his approach was, "This is what I believe, and this is how it's gonna go." and you're either on board or you're off, right? And so
Yeah.
obviously, like in dating, as Catholics, you're going to have to talk about the really key tenets in regards to like marriage, in regards to sexuality, in regards to children, all of these things, and then in how one wants to live and practice their faith. And so at that time, it was like, we will go every Sunday.
Mhm.
And, and yes, like you present it and you allow the other person to say like yes or no. And our mom was like, yes, sounds good to me,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah,
had
and our
FOMO
mom
and
right.
converted
Well,
for
and our
FOMO.
mom always says, when they were having these conversations, the one thing she knew, because she grew up Lutheran, the one thing she knew is she didn't wanna live in a household where one parent was going to one denomination and another parent was going to another denomination. Like, she
Right.
knew she didn't wanna raise children in a split household.
Yeah.
That was her big thing. And so when my dad was like, "Well, like Catholics, we're gonna raise the kids Catholic," my mom was like, "Well, okay, like I'm good with that. Like that's
Yeah.
fine." And I mean, and she's one of five, and three of the five became Catholic. Partly all
Yeah.
that same with that same mentality. Like their husbands were
Mhm.
Catholic, and they were like, "Okay." Um,
Well, and it's a little bit
but
about what can I handle, what can I not handle. I think some people see, and like our grandmother would disagree with us on this. She's like adamant you have to marry a Catholic,
which she
but
did
I
not marry Catholic,
which she did not. So,
very
um,
Presbyterian.
yeah. So, um, but I think that her response is a fear response,
Mm,
and that somehow not being Catholic is a threat, and I think many of us may feel that way. They're a threat to
mhm,
raising the children, they're a threat to my faith, and what I would say is that any criteria we can have or however we're operating in our life should be coming from a place running towards a goal, towards a good with abundance,
sure,
instead of out of fear away from something, because that's not gonna lead us down fruitful paths
sure,
in a life that's full flourishing,
right.
because
And I think, I mean, and it's I heard somebody say once, when you're thinking of the person you're going to marry, you're looking at him or her, and then you're looking at the baggage they carry and deciding whether you're willing to carry that baggage for the rest of your life.
Mhm.
And the baggage, guy X carries might be too much for you. It might be just fine for the girl next to you.
Right.
'Cause there's some types of baggage that we can handle more than other types of baggage. And so it's
Mhm.
not a matter of looking at someone and being like, oh, he's baggageless, because that's just not the reality.
Yeah.
Right. But it's looking at things and being able to say, like, okay, he carries the baggage of XYZ, whatever it is. Am I willing to do this?
Yeah.
So if it's, I'm going to, he's not Catholic, let's just say that's one of the things that's a bag I'm choosing to pick up, that he's not
Mhm.
Catholic. And I don't know if he ever will be,
Sure.
which for some would be totally fine. And they could do that. And for others, that would be very difficult for them. And maybe that's a bag they're not willing to carry because maybe they would have a hard time raising the children themselves or whatever. Right. But I think these are conversations that you have to have, and they can't just be a flat out like, no, I'm never doing this.
Mhm.
Part of it is you need to get to know the person, learn the
Mhm.
type of heart they have, learn, like get
And
into it and
and in
see.
that and in that know yourself so you
Hmm.
can communicate with them, right? So if you're
Right.
dating someone who's not Catholic, you're able to say, "Hey, here are my fears, actually.
Hmm.
I'm worried that if I marry someone who's not Catholic, I'm gonna have to fight the kids on going to mass on Sundays. I'm gonna have to like question if they ask you a serious question, like where you stand on certain
Right.
things. I'm gonna have to whatever." And in that comes a deeper dialogue and understanding, and then a decision made in freedom towards a good instead of a decision made out of fear and running away. If you just say,
Hmm.
"You're not Catholic and I need to run,"
Hmm.
it's out of fear, but if you say, "Let's talk about this," and you come to a deep
Yeah.
understanding of the other person, now both of you can make good free decisions
Right.
that aren't rooted in fear. And so
Yeah.
I think, I was actually Katie and I have a mutual friend who her and I were talking about this because um I didn't necessarily think that I would be open to maybe someone who already has kids,
Mm.
but then was like, "Oh, actually, I would be really, like, good at that. Like, I think, like, I like this actually.
You're
Like,
like,
I don't
I'd be a
mind it at
great bonus
all."
mom.
And this friend was like, "I could never." And
Mm.
we had to talk a lot about it and a lot about, like, what the fears were. And this is just kind of something that you kinda have to come to terms with in your 30s when you're dating, that people have made maybe a lot of mistakes and decisions in life, and they're in a unique situation that you have to be
Hmm.
maybe open to unique relationships that weren't really on the horizon at 22.
Yeah.
And
But I think, all of this goes back to like, you have to have good, deep conversations with these
yes.
people. Like and this goes back to our previous episode too. Like, this means you need to take the mask off and be really vulnerable.
Yeah.
Be yourself on these dates. Be very open to be able to have these conversations. Because I think
Mhm.
often what I see from friends of mine who are still single in their 30s and very frustrated with that is that it feels like they don't like give enough time and depth to something. So they might go out on
Mhm.
a handful of dates, eh, and they're out. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying you have to date everyone for 3 months or something like that, but I think sure, there are certainly some that you could date for once or twice and be like, this is never happening. But I
Mhm.
think a lot of the others, I think we're just really quick to like cut off without having some of these deeper conversations that are really important to understanding
Mhm.
like the interior of the person, the
Mhm.
heart of the
Mhm.
person
Mhm.
to see, okay, could we be compatible? Like,
Yeah.
could this actually work?
Yeah, and I think that there's we are almost rushing the decision to know if we could marry them
Yeah.
prematurely. That the decision to be with someone, the decision early on is getting to know the person. Can you keep getting to know them? The decision to marry them comes much later. You don't
Hmm.
know who they are. And
Right.
research is like you need to see, let the sun turn, right? Like
Hmm.
let the earth rotate, as one of my friend says. Like, let the days pass, let the seasons change so
Yeah.
you can see someone in many forms and shapes and seasons of their life to get to know who they truly are. This isn't a rushed decision.
Right.
Nobody is a waste of time. And I
Right.
think that as long as you're being really honest with yourself,
Hmm.
that's the most important part about, and
Right.
even like I will say, I didn't get into any relationships. I dated on and off in my 20s, but I didn't get into a lot of relationships, and that was my fault.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
had to, like, take a hard look at that and say, "What's going on?" Right?
Yeah.
Because, like, it's easy to be like, "Well, I'm just, like, a boss babe, and I'm focusing on my career, and blah, 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 blah." And for
Yeah.
me, it was
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
mask. It was a mask, and I had to face certain things, and then recently, like, zooming out and being like, "Let's take a look at these, serious relationships I've been in, and let's find the common denominators,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay?
What's
And
happening?
yeah, and what role I play in it, and maybe the percentage is only 1%, but you gotta be honest about what your 1% is, like, maybe they are 99% the problem, maybe, but
Yeah.
what was your 1%?
Yeah.
And, um, maybe we stay in relationships too long when we should go, and that's
Fair.
something we need to look at. Maybe we don't give people an opportunity. Maybe we have really strict standards. I'm thinking of someone in particular who, like, they got married maybe, like, a little later, but, the person they married, I actually see this a lot. The person they married, um, had a handful of what they considered in their 20s to be deal breakers. And
Oh.
if had they met their person in their 20s, they wouldn't have dated him, they wouldn't have married him.
Right.
And so some people could be like, "Oh my gosh, you dropped your standards." Or we grew up. We
Right. And
understood ourselves
realize
a little better, that
a
those things can
tattoo
become
doesn't matter or
sure,
whatever.
like,
Right. Like,
sure. Or like those things were kind of like superficial or
yeah.
whatever. So the challenge is to look at yourself and say like, "Well, what are my relationship patterns? Why
Hmm.
am I choosing what I chose? Why am I accepting what comes into my life?" Um, and
I think this is making me think too, like, I think, you tend to get one or the other. You have people who date kind of longer term and stay in relationships longer
mm,
than they should. And then I think you have, especially in this day and age, I think you have a lot of people who just don't give it much time at all. One date, two dates, out, done, next. One date. And I always think of both our brother, Peter, and
mm,
our dad. Like if their relationship had ended after date one, which it very well could have. Pete always says he was so nervous. He like basically was incoherent and like couldn't talk on his first date and was like an idiot. Right?
yeah,
Like he
Mary was
literally
like, "He was so rigid," and I'm like,
but he like walked in and saw her and was like, damn, like she is fine. And then like froze and was just a horrible first date, right?
yeah,
And so if Mary had been like, I don't know, he just like didn't
weirdo.
laugh. He didn't, which like Peter's like one of our funniest, loudest siblings,
Yeah,
right? But he didn't show up at all like himself that first
yeah,
time. And the same with our parents. Like my mom showed up, and they always joke about this, but my mom showed up to the first date in a suit because it was like cool and trendy. And she just double pierced her ear and she talked the whole time about her major and her degree and what she was getting. And my dad was like, oh, I was looking for a woman who wanted to have a more traditional like household with
Yeah.
kids, but he didn't say that to her. She didn't say anything like that to him. And so after the first date, he was like, oh, I'm not doing this again. And thank God for his roommate who was like, no, these two deserve to
Give
be
her a
together.
chance. Yeah.
And the roommate forced a second date and then they got engaged on their third date. But like,
Which we don't recommend that, but
no, but it's, but on the second date, and this is the part. On the second date, they talked about all of these really deep, important things about their views on family and, these kinds of things. And they realized like, oh, actually, we do have a lot more in common. But they didn't realize
yeah.
that on the first date. And they wouldn't have realized that if they weren't willing to go deep and get vulnerable.
Right. And you know what? I have this friend who she's in a relationship right now, and um some wounds from previous relationships were triggered, and it was just
Sure.
like she flipped. And sometimes you need good friends in your life to say like, "Hey, this is
Take
a
a beat.
you problem right now.
Yeah.
Like this is an opportunity to heal a little bit more. Don't blow this up. Be patient. Like
Mm-hmm.
just because the previous guy did X doesn't mean the future guy will do Y. And that's hard. And I think the longer
Mm-hmm.
you date, the more maybe adverse or traumatic experiences you have, which you carry with you. And so some of it
Sure.
is this is not an episode to talk about how to fix your dating life because you will all have to be married. This is an episode to say your singleness and your relationship status or your operation in relationships are deeper signs to internal work that needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And so work on yourself. See this as an opportunity to learn way more about yourself. We can't be projecting problems on everyone else and onto the world. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to date. Yes, we're, swimming upstream. All of this can be true. And so too, the internal work needs
Mm-hmm.
to be done because regardless of if you end up with someone or not, you need to be the best you.
Mm-hmm.
And we learn so much about ourselves in relation to other people.
Yeah, it's true. You know what I also think
Tell me.
is it's kind of related but not related
Mhm.
is I feel like you guys have this paradox of choice that exists now that I think
Oh,
makes it
100%.
really hard to stay in relationships because
100%.
you can just swipe to the next guy
Yeah.
and swipe again. And he's good looking, but like I could probably swipe to somebody better looking.
Mhm.
And you just swipe and swipe and swipe. And I feel like it's like when you stand in the salad dressing aisle and you're trying to pick a salad dressing to go home with, and you only have about 7,000 options to pick
Yeah.
from. So
And
good luck.
even if you're like, I want ranch, there's like 15 different ranches you could have.
True,
Okay.
unless you're Hidden
So,
Valley, obsessee, like you, like
yeah.
that's it. And so I think that's also part of it. But again, when we know ourselves better,
Mhm.
we're able to understand, even maybe we're able to see that in ourselves. That
Mhm.
like actually I am always looking for better.
Yeah.
What I quote unquote deem better, right? Or whatever it is. And
Yeah.
maybe
So
I'm self-sabotaging this a little bit, you
there's
know?
this great book. This is so funny. I'm pulling into my How Not to Die Alone by Logan Ury. It's not religious at all, but actually I think she's Jewish. But she talks about how there's like different types of like dating people
Mm,
and how some people are the optimizer. What you were just saying is like, I think I could do 10% better. Think I could find someone with straighter teeth. Think I could find someone a little shorter. Think I could
yeah,
find
who makes a
whatever.
little bit more money,
Yes. And we
who
kind of
whatever.
optimize the game. Um or the like I don't know what she calls it essentially, like the delayed start. It's like, well, when I lose 10 pounds,
Mm,
when I finish this, when I get the promotion, then I'll be secured a date. When I do this, then I'll be able to do that. And I have found that this is what she's highlighting. And I think she talks about maybe two more types of daters. I don't so it's those two, and then I think she has a few others. But that is true in a lot of our relationships or even how we operate professionally or all these things. When there's a commitment in front of us that requires us to take a leap, whether that's a vocational call, career, or a relationship, a romantic relationship, we either are insecure within ourselves, and so we avoid, and we think
Right.
that self-work is a healthy avoidance, or we judge the other and say, "Well, maybe I could get like a 10% better job.
Right.
Maybe I could make maybe the next job I'll make more money." And so now
Mhm.
really what's underneath all of that is a fear of commitment. And
Mhm.
Katie, as someone who has committed your life
Mhm.
to a call that is beyond yourself,
Right.
that it within those boundaries, you're actually like more free and your heart can go to
Yeah.
more depths than if
Yeah.
you were just kind of floating through life.
Mhm. Yeah. I feel like there's so many directions, so many things to unpack because it's also making me think of those people who just marry the first great guy that comes along, the first
Yeah.
good guy that comes along,
Yeah.
right? And like our dad, when he was like much more in the marriage therapy side, was always kind of surprised at the number of couples who'd been married, I don't know, 3 or 4 years and had,
And really
maybe gone
shocking.
to like a Benedictine or a Franciscan or an Ave Maria or UD, and they're in therapy 3 years into their marriage because they realize like they just married a really good guy or a really good girl, but they're not friends. Like they don't have that much in common
Well,
besides
they
like
didn't know themselves
being
well
good
enough.
Catholics or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And I think that's also part of this is like the reverse of that a little bit, but this we're not saying, in this conversation, we're not saying, well, just find the next great guy
Mm,
and jump in. Because if you're in your 30s and you're single, like you're the problem. But we're saying, because that's not good either, right?
no.
But that a little work on yourself, a little work on this, a little work at being more vulnerable in the dates you go on the dates you go on, and stuff like that can go a long way in
Yeah.
helping you, move towards this goal.
Well,
Um,
I think being authentic, right?
mhm.
I think really being authentic with yourself. And I think if you're single in your 30s, I'm not saying you are the problem. I'm saying you own a percentage
Right.
of it. Like we do in everything in life. And so
Yeah.
what is your percentage? Because that's really the only thing in your control. You can't control if other men are going to be trash. You can't control the fact that like we've got online dating instead of real life stuff and we want to have a meet cute. Blah blah blah. Yes, I hear all of it. I think that I mean, so too, even if you're discerning a religious vocation, how on earth would you know where you fit if you don't know yourself and what
Right.
speaks to your heart, right?
Right.
Because if you're called, like a call to being Dominican or Franciscan or Opus Dei is a call of the heart. And
Right.
to know the language of my heart and to know what would be best suited to me
Mhm.
means I have to know myself. And so this is more of
Yeah.
a call to like, don't jump into the next thing. Just be
Right.
honest with yourself. Be
Right.
honest about your avoidance. Be honest about your pursuit. Be honest about how you're showing up with yourself in every area of your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. I have a good friend who's discerning religious life right now.
Hmm.
And so she really, really loves the Carmelites here in St. Louis, but she was like, I don't know, maybe I'm supposed to be a Nashville Dominican. And I was like, "Mm, I don't really see that, but like, okay, like cool." But I think,
Okay.
but like similar to dating, I was like, yeah, you should go check it out. So she went down and did one of the like discernment weekends at the Nashville Dominicans and came back and was like, oh, that was so not my vocation. Like she was like, I saw it so clearly and so did the Mother Superior. And I was like, yeah. But like she needed to go
Yeah.
and try that, know herself well enough to know actually this charism is not going to work with who I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what my heart needs and all of that kind of stuff, where God is calling me, so that she could say, yes to what's most likely going to be the Carmelites. But I
Mm.
think, and the same with this, like, but you need to know yourself well to be able to do that. Otherwise, like I have another friend who discerned in and out of Dominicans like 4 times
Mm-hmm.
and then got engaged and then broke off the engagement and then got engaged and broke off the
Yeah.
engagement and was like trying to figure it all out. And I was like, girl, you got to take a breath
Yeah.
and figure out who you are. And that's going to answer a lot of these questions for you,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know?
And we don't, and so to your point, what I like about that is that you don't have to figure it out and then look. You can be figuring it out while you're looking. And part of the
Mm-hmm.
figuring you out is taste testing.
Yeah.
Well, right? Like, oh, I don't like that. One of my
Yeah.
best friends and I, we describe men as ice cream flavors, and we're like, what are we dealing with? And I'm like, rocky road. road. Like it's good for some, not for me, not my palate. Right, or it's like, he's just like, it's actually strawberry ice cream. It's very
Mhm.
specific. It's not for me, like whatever.
Niche.
And I think that because I don't want people to think that their life is stalled. Like that's the whole point of this podcast. Your life is
Right.
not stalled. Singleness is not a period of being stalled, but that every season of our life affords us unique opportunities, given the situation of that season of your life, to become the best version of yourself. Discerning religious life or committing to an order or charism or finding the person you're going to marry, those seasons will present different opportunities to grow.
Mhm.
And then in that commitment, in those vows, a different opportunity to grow. And so here in our
Right.
singleness, we have this really unique opportunity to get to know ourselves a lot through the trial and error. Going to the Nashville Dominicans is going to tell her a lot about herself. And it's
Yeah.
not a
No, she
failure
learned
to
so
say
much.
so much. And through failing we learn so much. So
Mhm.
the the question here is, can I like journal maybe about
Mhm.
all of the areas that I've tried and maybe failed in either pursuing a religious order or, vocation or in dating? What are those patterns? Lay them all out and look for those patterns within yourself and
Mhm.
within those men or within those avenues and say, what does this say about me? What are wounds I carry that I show up with each day? Beautiful. Can I face those so I know when they're showing up?
Mhm.
And can I find paths for healing? Can I have an accountability partner who's able to be honest with me about what they're seeing too, or a therapist or so forth? Um,
Mhm.
because it's a very unique opportunity to be able to experience yourself in so many different areas with different
Sure.
people
Yeah,
to
yeah.
learn about yourself a lot.
Yeah. And to those, I'm thinking of our listeners who are maybe in college or just out of college, and maybe they're
Yeah.
like, okay, I want to get married, but like it's not going to be tomorrow. Whereas like people in their 30s are kind of like, I'd like it to be tomorrow,
Mm,
or their late 20s. I think, to your earlier point too, like the beauty of dating and date now is to figure out what flavors you like, what flavors you don't like, right? But then also to start learning about yourself, to
yeah.
learn about how you are in relationships, how you react to certain things, right? Like and kind of but looking at it deeply, not just hopping from like date to date or relationship to relationship, but like being in these things and looking at them, praying about it, journaling about it, maybe talking to someone about it to understand more so that you don't get caught in these patterns that then continue through
Mhm.
your 20s into your 30s and then you're, 32 and you're sitting here like what the heck happened, right?
Yeah.
Like
Or you make a commitment coming from a wounded place out of fear, and you
right,
wake up one day and you say, "What did I do?" And I have
right.
seen people do this in religious orders, and
Oh
I've seen
yeah,
them do it in marriage, in that your vocation is not a refuge.
right.
It's not a refuge away from fear of relationships, fear of men, fear of religious life, fear of
Right.
loneliness, whatever it is. So I run so hard into something and commit
Yeah.
myself,
No.
which so many people do. And so again, it's these decisions are coming from a place of love and abundance and not
Mhm.
fear. And when fear is showing up, that's okay. It's a call to heal. It's a call for compassion. It's a
Mhm.
call to allow someone else to be journeying with me in charity.
Right.
Like we have to give people those opportunities. So
Yeah.
this is
And
all
I think it's really a call to vulnerability, to authenticity,
mm,
to that kind of a thing, right? Because
yeah.
that's like unless you're able to do that in your relationship with God, in your relationship with others, romantic or otherwise, friendship, like you're not going to have deep good relations. Like you can't.
Mhm,
You
mhm,
can't if you're not being
mhm,
yourself
mhm,
because you're
mhm,
not offering who you truly are to that other person.
mhm.
Absolutely. All right, that's it this week on Single Not Stalled. We hope this episode gave you new insights and a renewed sense of purpose in your daily life. Wherever you are on your journey, remember that God is with you, and this season is filled with opportunities to grow, flourish, and make an impact. If you're loving the podcast, please take a moment to rate and review it. It helps more women like you find this community. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Join us on social media at Single Not Stalled. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, keep living fully and walking boldly.